about this a little bit more. Talk to me about the dark wolf. And is it the light wolf or the white wolf?
The light wolf and the dark wolf.
Yes,
very much
Tell
so.
me about those two guys. Tell me about that concept.
Yes.
Let's talk about it.
So we're all made with balance in the world. Yin, yang, sun, moon, masculine, feminine. And in us, we all have what I call a light wolf and a dark wolf. And we can feed either of those beasts in us, if you will. When we feed the light wolf, whatever feeds the light wolf, that is a behavior that if we indulge in that, that is a net positive on us, the people around us, and our community. So that can be things like helping out at a charity. That could be things like making sure your friend is taken care of. That could be things like hosting for someone who's maybe trying to study here and is struggling, right? Then there's feeding the dark wolf. And the dark wolf, the things that feed the dark wolf are the things that we do for our own selfish desires. And if we indulge in that too much, it would be a net negative on us and the people around us. And so when we were talking at lunch, I was talking about men and their dark wolf, and I've been thinking a lot about the women's side, and maybe you can touch on this. But I've noticed that the dark wolf for men stereotypically tends to be one of these four things. It tends to be alcohol, it tends to be gambling, it tends to be fighting, it tends to be women, or drugs. Right? Those are things that fulfill his own selfish desires, that if he indulges in those things too much, it will be a net negative for him and the people around him. And with that, when it comes to a relationship and a marriage, I think part of the reason why some marriages fail is because a man promises never to feed his dark wolf again if he used to, right? And the dark wolf doesn't die because the dark wolf is a part of you.
Yes.
The dark wolf only dies when you move on,
right?
When the body moves on and the spirit moves on. And so what happens is you can try and starve that dark wolf, but eventually it will come back with a vengeance. And so that's why you have these men who have been straight and narrow for 10, 15, 20 years, good woman, good kids and everything. And then suddenly he's had several affairs. Suddenly he sold his home. He's bought that sports car he's always wanted. Suddenly he sold everything. Now he's just gone on a wild trip. He's now doing drugs. He's indulging in that dark side. That's because he starved his dark wolf for so long. It then came back with a vengeance, and now it's just pure gluttony. And so I think part of having a healthy relationship for a man, and this is why I'll ask this, and I asked my girlfriend this, what do you think dark wolf is for women? Is how can he keep the dark wolf on a diet while in the relationship? And that's what it's about. It's about, you still have to feed the dark wolf a little bit to keep it at bay, but how can you feed it in a way that keeps it on a diet that doesn't disrupt what you have? Because this is why, sometimes a lot of time, wives would be like, oh, why is he always, going to the pub, drinking with his friends? That's him feeding his dark wolf. Why is it when he goes out, he's always like prone to getting into fights? It's feeding his dark wolf. Right. Why is it when he gets some money, the first thing he does is go to the casino? That's feeding his dark wolf. Why is it anytime he's single, or no, just single, he just can't help himself with indulging in lustful actions and behaviors with other women? That's feeding the dark wolf. So I think especially this is the work I think we all have to do. And this is the work that I think especially men we have to do, because I think it's an unrealistic promise to be like, I'm never going to feed this dark wolf. I'm going to starve this side of me. And it only comes back to literally bite them in the relationship.
Right.
So it's about how do you keep that dark wolf on a diet that keeps it at bay, but you can still maintain your relationship.
Love it. Now, another question. I love firing them at you. Dark wolf. So how do you feel a woman can support her man's dark wolf so it doesn't go out of hand? Okay, so we I believe have made it clear that it's a man's responsibility and a woman's responsibility to deal with your dark wolf.
Very true.
Right? Like, it's my primary responsibility. But how can I as a woman help my man now that I acknowledge this? Because it's quite a big deal. I think, the idea of the dark masculine, the dark feminine is something that, because I've been in the sort of femininity kind of space for a very, very long time. And there's always this part that was like, but it doesn't quite fit. It's not all there is, right? Yes. And then I obviously then realized that there is such a thing as a dark feminine, which is fantastic. But again, like all things dark, it can get dark.
Yes. Yeah.
Right?
100%.
That's where the mean girl comes out, and that's where the witch comes out.
Yes.
And all that kind of gold digging kind of energy, that kind of, which a lot of people are meeting a lot of people's darkness and thinking,
Yes.
oh, that's women. No, that's kind of that untethered darkness,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So if I take control of that version of me, because it's useful, it has its place.
Useful. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
There's a reason we have it.
Yeah. But I might need help from my partner. So you're a guy, you spoke to your girlfriend. I'm sure you've had conversations. As you help yourself, how else can she support you? How do you think a woman can support a man? Maybe give him a bit more leeway or help him out, participate?
Sure. Yeah.
What
yeah.
do you recommend?
I hear that. If she asks him, what do you, and when a woman asks this question, she has to ask it from a place of wanting to understand and reserve judgment later.
Note that, ladies. Say that again, please, kid.
You need to ask from a place of wanting to understand and reserve judgment later.
Thank you.
She needs to ask him, what do you need? What's going to help you feel fulfilled in this relationship? And if he's like, okay, and if he's being open, transparent, which it can be very difficult for men to do because a lot of the time men feel responsible for a woman's emotions in a relationship. And so when she's upset, he thinks it's my fault. And so it's like, should I be honest and tell her at the risk of upsetting her, or should I not say anything at all and keep the peace? And a lot of guys choose that avenue, which I don't think is always right, because sometimes the friction is actually what can create understanding, or an avenue to build understanding. So she asked him, what do you need to feel fulfilled in life? Or how can I support you to feel fulfilled? So if one of his dark wolf is, let's say it's fighting, he might be like, okay, well, I've taken up my time, right? I enjoy it. I may come home bruised and battered, so maybe the compromise is maybe I'll do it 3 times a month. Right. And when I come home, I need you to not complain about whether I have a black eye, a bloody nose. I want you to just ask if I'm okay, if I need anything. And that's it.
Okay.
And she may not even understand. She might, why does he need to fight? Like, why is this in him? Because a lot of the time it's easy to go, yeah, but why do you need to do that? Like, is there something wrong with you? Was it a trauma response or whatever?
Right.
It might just be him. That's what his dark wolf food is.
Right.
And so there is a responsibility on him to be like, how can I do this that doesn't impact my relationship? Yeah. But also on her to try and provide some space for him to do that. Right. That's where the compromise comes. Yeah. I mean, the other classic dark wolf, and this happens more often than women realize, especially in the upper echelons of society. But let's say with lust and with women, the other feeling dark wolf might be like, okay, he might say, we have a relationship, I'm committed to you, we have a serious investment, etc. You're my person. But every now and again, I may have a physical thing elsewhere. And for some women, they can accept that. Some can't. The higher you go in society, the more women accept that than people realize. Because it's like, I have the name, I'm on his arm on the red carpet, I have the house, I have the kids, a random girl one night that he has a physical thing with that doesn't mean anything. And it can be very difficult for women to understand this. I understand. It's very difficult, especially because I think a lot of the time sex for women, not always, because you have those lustful times, but there can be a level of emotional intimacy. So it can be very difficult for women to understand, how can a guy just have sex and it doesn't mean anything? How can he be so detached? I don't know why. You're going to have to talk to the creator, because that's how he made us. Yeah. Right? And so if you don't have to understand why, but if you understand that's a need, and is there a way you can facilitate the space? It might be like, okay, if you do it, maybe it might be something some couples take the approach is like, okay, you can have another girl, but I want to be involved. That's one way. Some are like, I don't want to know. So it's like a don't ask, don't tell. Don't ask, don't tell.
Right.
Some it might be like, okay, we can only do that, or you can only do that outside of this country. So that it's never anyone who we could cross paths with. So it's only if we're on holiday or something.
Right.
And if you say you're going out, I will not ask questions. If you come back next month, etc. So the best relationships, at least I believe, is understanding those sides of each other instead of trying to promise to be something that we just inherently aren't.
I love that.
And I think a woman shares her whatever her dark wolf is, and a guy should be able to provide the space for whatever that is.
Absolutely. And I feel that these are important conversations. Really important. I would love to see a world where people can actually have a real conversation about stuff. But that will mean people have to be healed from their trauma. They have to be self-aware and they have to be self-loving, because if we have that conversation, for instance, a man told me that his dark wolf was to meander elsewhere now and again. I cognitively can understand that. I rationally can understand that, because, you know, I am unusually that way for a girl. I would have a hard time with it. Right? And so instead of wasting both our time, I would have to say thank you, bye.
Yeah.
And that should be okay.
100%. Yeah.
And I feel that a lot of women, I think if you give yourself permission to walk away from the things that don't sit well, then you give yourself permission to have any type of conversation. You know, I've had conversations with, I remember dating this one guy, and he was very clear that there was a particular sexual act that he wanted, that he made very clear that if he doesn't have it, he's going to cheat. Like, he was very clear, and I adored him. I have that highest respect for men that tell me the truth.
Yeah, 100%.
I swear it's the best quality for me in a man. Is very sexy, it's wonderful.
Yes.
But I just wasn't prepared to play, you know? And it was okay. You know, it really was okay. And I feel like, you know, we should have more of those sort of situations. I mean, there are things that I will totally entertain that other women won't.
Yeah. Yeah. And like you said, it's about seeing if you can.
Yeah. And I feel like we should actually have a whole episode just on this topic, because we were talking about that before you came. That was a lady who's been asked to be in a polygamous situation. And, you know, that's his dark wolf. He's made it clear. And we're talking about how authentic and how real he was. And she's the one who's not. But I really feel like this is a conversation that we absolutely need to have. And I think we need to make it safe to have it in these sort of situations and have back and forth, because I don't really think anybody should be vilified for who they are in their darkness.
I completely
Because
agree.
that is the you, right? And I love this conversation. I wish we had another hour, because I know you and I can talk for like 2-3 hours. But let's have this conversation again. I'm going to pin this because I remember saying to a bunch of women, I think I was a teaching assistant at the time, and we had all these, you know, women in the staff room. And I happened to say, I said to them, so how many of you would leave your husband, because all of them were married in for a very long time, so it's kind of outside of London and they tend to keep their marriages forever. And I said, how many of you would leave your marriages if your husband cheated and you found out? So they all said, oh, I for sure would. I would kill him. Everybody did the usual. And I think a lot of women would accept the cheating part if they didn't have to deal with other women shaming them. I really do. I think, like you said, if I get the lifestyle, the love, the support, the children, to be honest, that fulfills most women's cup. But it's how will if my friends ever found, it's the community thing. We can't be having that, because that's low status.
She still has
if your
to
man
have
is
respect.
cheating on you, right, you are low status, and then now you can't hold your head up high, right? So there are all these other kind of situations. But I did say that to these ladies, and you know, at the end, everybody obviously lost their rag, because women get really emotional about this. And I think we get emotional about it because we don't talk about it in healthy setups.
100%. Can I ask you a hypothetical question?
Yes.
Would you rather, let's say you're married to a man.
Yes.
Would you rather that he never cheated, but everyone thinks that he has on you, and all the women think that he has cheated on you, but he hasn't?
Yeah.
Or would you rather that he has cheated, but no one knows?
As long as I'm the one who doesn't know, along with no one else knows.
Yes, of course.
I need to be amongst the no one. Here's the thing. I don't want to say this publicly, because I know we'll have different sort of conversations privately. But I will say this, and this is absolutely true for me. What I don't know won't hurt me, number one. Number two, I am very accepting of human nature.
You are actually, yeah.
I'm very accepting. What I don't want to ever give over to my person, because for me it's a very spiritual connection, and sex is spiritual to me. So I don't want an invasion of entities into this spiritual space, because I'm literally made of mainly spirit, then I'm very connected to my spirituality, to the point where if you are in my life, I will literally dream every woman you've had. I'll see her face. I'll know what she looks like.
Yo, women know, actually. That's true. Yeah.
And I will literally go to bed and see the women you've been with today. That's how it is with me, with my spirituality.
Yeah.
So it doesn't work, because I will end up in the bedroom with you, with that woman. Do you know what I'm saying? I think if you could literally keep it from me, if it were at all possible, you know,
Yeah, I understand.
that God won't tell on you.
Don't tell him, man.
It's a, you know, and a lot of women get that. A woman will feel it in her intuition. Some will feel it, but as long as there's no evidence. But I know women who are like me, not many, who will literally witness it. I've had a boyfriend or two, and I literally saw it. The person, the place, the thing. And all the women before me, like, literally lined up. So it's very difficult to keep that from me. And then it's very painful, because you wake up from the dream and you've witnessed the whole thing. Whereas a woman that can't see it, she can ignore it. She can put it somewhere in the compartment of, he probably changed.
Yeah.
But he's never gonna, do you know what I'm trying to say? So this is why for me personally, it's hard I don't think I can watch my man in bed with another man, with another woman. And I think, to be honest, I understand that it's my programming. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
I understand that
yeah.
it's my conditioning and
Sure.
it's my scripting.
Sure.
It's not necessarily my nature.
Yeah.
Because if women somewhere all over the world, or women who are actually comfortable doing it, are doing it, it means that it is within us to have the capacity for it. I've just not been, it's not my blueprint.
Yeah.
And I'm too old to change it now.
Yeah, of course.
And I'm not motivated to, per se, because I feel like I'm okay waiting for that person who can play, you know, the same kind of,
at least in that realm.
Yeah. But I think as a partner of mine, you're gonna get a lot of bandwidth over a lot of things, you know, because you know, I give men a lot of freedom, you know. It's just that in that area we might have a problem. With that being said, a mistake is a mistake. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yes, I do.
But a kind of pass, a whole pass for life, that I can't give.
Yeah, no, I hear that. And you have to decide what's right for you. You have to decide what's right for you.
Yeah, and who knows? Life is not this linear thing. I always say never, because I don't know what I will accept 5 years from now, and because there are a lot of things I never thought I'd accept. But my whole thing is, if you can sit with it in your integrity, and you can have peace and not be paranoid and be acting crazy with anything in life, then that's where you are, and that's your authentic place, and you can proceed from there. I envy women who
100%.
can. I really do.
No, I 100%. I get you.